13:44. The executions were scheduled for dawn. Kael had 40 minutes. Not to stop them. He'd already failed at that, spectacularly, in ways that would probably end his diplomatic career before he turned 32. But to do the one thing his supervisor had explicitly told him not to do, in writing, with 3 separate signatures, talk to the Draen commander directly. The Draen didn't negotiate after sentencing. Everyone knew this. It was in every briefing, every cultural orientation packet, every cautionary tale exchanged between human diplomats over bad coffee on long postings. The Draen rendered judgment. Judgment became sentence. Sentence became fact. There was no mechanism, biological, cultural, or legal, for what Kael was about to attempt. He went anyway. The guard at the command entrance was 3 meters tall and smelled like hot iron. It looked at Kael the way you look at something you haven't categorized yet. "I need 5 minutes with Commander Vethare," Kael said. The guard said nothing. "I know," Kael said. "I know you don't do this. I know there's no word in your language for what I'm asking. I'm asking anyway." 38 minutes. The guard stepped aside. Commander Vethare of the Draen Enforcement Clade had processed 11,000 sentences in her career. She had never had one interrupted. She watched the human cross her command floor, small, visibly terrified, moving anyway, and felt something she had no immediate classification for. The Draen processed emotion as tactical data, categorized and filed. This registered as anomalous. "Investigate. You have no standing here," she said. "I know. The sentence is lawful. The evidence was complete." "I know that too." "Then what?" she said slowly. "Are you doing in my command room 40 minutes before dawn?" Kael stopped 3 meters away. He was shaking slightly. She could see it in his hands, the way his kind couldn't suppress physiological stress response, and he was maintaining eye contact anyway, which the Draen only did with equals or enemies. "I'm here," he said, "because 3 of the people sentenced today are innocent, and I can prove it, and I have 37 minutes. The proof wasn't clean. Kael had known that going in. Clean proof would have worked through channels, would have reached the review tribunal, would have done this the right way. What he had instead was a chain of inference, partial intercepts, a timing discrepancy in the Draen's own sensor logs that their analysts had classified as equipment error, and a witness who existed only because Kael had spent 6 weeks building trust with a Draen civil clerk who technically wasn't supposed to talk to him. He laid it out in 11 minutes. No embellishment. No appeal to mercy. He'd read enough to know that was the wrong frequency entirely for Vethare species. Just the data, the gaps, the discrepancy. When he finished, Vethare was silent. "Your sensor log error," he said quietly. "It isn't an error. It's a 4-second window. And in that 4-second window, 3 people you're executing at dawn were 17 kilometers from the site." "One discrepancy," Vethare said. "This does not constitute. Pull the civil transit records. Registry 7. My clerk flagged them 6 days ago, and your system auto-archived them as redundant." He held her gaze. 22 minutes. She pulled them. Kael watched her face, or what passed for a face on a Draen. The ridge plate above her vocal cavity. The bioluminescent strips along her jaw that shifted color with cognition load. They were shifting fast now. Orange to yellow to something he didn't have a reference for. 14 minutes. "This clerk," Vethare said, "they violated disclosure protocol." "Yes. You built a relationship with a civil officer specifically to circumvent our institutional boundaries." "Yes. That is," she said, with what Kael could only read as something extremely complicated. "Not something any foreign diplomat has attempted in my jurisdiction in 30 years of service. I'm aware it's irregular." "Irregular." She said the word the way you repeat something back, to confirm you've heard it correctly. "You entered my command room 40 minutes before a lawful execution with inadmissible evidence obtained through a procedural violation, and you are describing this as irregular." "I'm describing it," Kael said, as the only thing I could think of. The bioluminescent strips were a color he'd never seen before on any Draen in any footage. She hit the suspension order with 9 minutes to spare. The 3 prisoners were released at mid-morning. No ceremony, The Draen didn't do ceremony for corrections. A sentence suspended was simply a data point updated, a record amended, the system functioning as designed. Kael sat outside the release processing bay on a low wall that wasn't designed for sitting, eating something from his bag that had gone slightly stale 3 days ago, and tried to figure out how to write a report that didn't end his career. He was still working on it when Vethare appeared. She stood in front of him, 3 meters of enforcement-clade authority, and looked at him on his low wall with his stale food and his career-ending report. "You were afraid," she said. "Extremely. From the moment you entered my command room. From about 40 minutes before that, actually." Her jaw strip shifted, a color he was beginning to associate, tentatively, with something that might be recalibration. "Why did you continue?" Kael thought about it honestly. "Because being afraid of the wrong outcome," he said, "has always scared me more than being afraid of the thing in front of me." Vethare was quiet for a long moment. "We have a word," she said finally, "for those who act correctly despite complete systemic disadvantage." She paused. "We apply it only to Draen. We have never applied it to another species." "What's the word?" She told him. He couldn't pronounce it. He tried twice, failed, and she watched him fail with what he was now fairly certain was the Draen equivalent of amusement. "What does it mean?" he asked. "Approximately," she said. "One who makes the system remember what it was built for." She left. Kael sat on his low wall for a long time after that. Then he finished his stale food, opened his report, and wrote the most honest 11 pages of his career. He carbon-copied Vethare. He didn't know why. He suspected she did. "So here's what I want you to sit with. 3 innocent people are alive today not because the system worked, but because one person was more afraid of doing nothing than of doing everything wrong. How many systems in your life are waiting for someone to make them remember what they were built for?"